There is a moment after a nuclear strike when staying in the city is slow death, and leaving too early is suicide under a radioactive sky. Knowing exactly when and how to leave is the difference between life and death for millions. Most survivors of the first explosion will make one of two fatal mistakes. They will run out into the streets in panic during the first minutes and receive a lethal dose from fallout, or they will remain in the dead city too long and die from thirst, hunger, or violence when resources run out. Today, I will tell you the exact algorithm. When to decide to evacuate, how to choose the right moment and route of movement, what to take with you and what to avoid at all costs, where to go when the radiation subsides, and what signs tell you it is time to leave immediately. You will learn why the first 72 hours you must sit completely still, even if it seems you could leave. How the wind rules and contamination zones work. Why a car will kill you faster than walking. And what 5 criteria determine the place where you will survive for a long time. In the middle, there will be a moment when you realize your city has turned from a home into a deadly trap. Not immediately, but inevitably. And the time when you must make the hardest decision of your life will come faster than you think. And at the end, a clear evacuation plan without emotions or panic. Just the logic of physics and geography, tested in thousands of survival modeling scenarios for nuclear war. So, the nuclear charge has detonated over the city. You have survived the first flash and the shock wave, you have taken cover correctly in the first 15 minutes, you are sitting in a basement or a protected room and waiting. Right now, the most important thing you must understand is this. You have a window of time from 72 hours to 7 days when the decision to leave or stay will determine everything that follows. Earlier than this window, you cannot leave physically. Later, it will be many times more difficult and dangerous. For the first 72 hours after the explosion, you are absolutely motionless in your shelter. This is non-negotiable. It is a physical law of radioactive isotope decay that does not depend on your wishes or circumstances. The radiation in the first hours after fallout is lethal even for minutes spent in the open air. Every second under the invisible dust adds a dose that accumulates in the body. In a few minutes, you will receive a dose from which radiation sickness will begin. In an hour, the dose will be absolutely lethal. Radiation sickness is not instant death, but slow destruction. The first symptoms are nausea, vomiting, weakness, a few hours after exposure. Then apparent improvement for several days when you think you have gotten away with it. Then hair loss, bleeding gums, infections, ulcers on the skin. The finale is failure of the bone marrow, immune system, intestines. Death. Through 1 to 3 weeks of agony. There is no treatment for a high dose of radiation. None. Iodine tablets do not help. They protect only the thyroid from one isotope. Anti-radiation drugs in hospitals ease symptoms but do not save from a lethal dose. Blood and bone marrow transfusions are theoretically possible but practically unavailable when hospitals no longer exist. The only treatment is prevention. Do not receive the dose at all. The rule of 7 works like this. After 7 hours, radiation drops by 10 times, after 49 hours by 100 times, after 2 weeks by 1,000 times, but even the level after 2 days is still dangerous for prolonged time outside. 72 hours is the minimum period when radiation has subsided enough that you can go outside for short periods without guaranteed death. But this does not mean it is safe. It means your chances of survival become higher than 0. During these first 3 days, you do only 3 things. Save water and food, stretching your supplies. Observe the situation if there are windows or cracks from which you can see the street. Think, soberly assessing your resources and options ahead. Observation of the street gives critical information. Are there fires spreading closer? Are people moving outside, and where are explosions or shots heard? Is daylight visible normally, or is the air shrouded in smoke? All this data will help you decide whether to leave or stay when the time comes. Inventory of resources must be honest, without embellishment. Count the water in liters and how many days it will last at a norm of 2 liters per person per day. Count the food in calories. An adult needs at least 1,500 per day to maintain strength. Check the first aid kit. Are there basic medications? Assess the state of the shelter. Is it protected from intrusion? Psychological preparation for the decision begins during these 3 days. Accept that the old life has ended and will not return soon or ever. Realize that loved ones who are not nearby are most likely dead or unreachable. Reconcile yourself to the fact that you will have to make difficult choices between bad options. Cold calculation is now more important than emotions if you want to survive. After 72 hours comes the critical moment of decision-making. And here most people make mistakes because they decide based on emotions, not facts. There are 5 questions you must answer as honestly as possible, without self-deception. The first question is about water. The second is about food. The third is about the safety of the shelter. The fourth is about the state of the city outside. The fifth is about your physical and mental condition. Question 1. About water, the most important. Do you have a supply of clean drinking water for at least a week ahead? Can you replenish the supply from a safe source without staying outside for long? Do the taps work, or is there a well, borehole, spring nearby? If there is no water for a week ahead and nowhere safe to replenish it, the decision to leave is made automatically, because without water a person dies in 3 to 4 days maximum. No other factors outweigh thirst, which kills faster than hunger, radiation, and cold combined. Question 2. About food, less critical but still important. Do you have a supply of calorie-dense food for at least 2 weeks? Can you stretch what you have to a month if you economize harshly? Is there a possibility to find food nearby without risking your life? A person can technically live without food for several weeks, but strength decreases every day. The ability to move quickly drops, immunity weakens, wounds heal more slowly, decisions are made worse from weakness and hunger stress. If there is no food for 2 weeks and nowhere to get it, this is a serious argument in favor of leaving, but not critical like water. You can try to hold out a few more days, assessing the situation, but postponing the decision longer than a week is dangerous because weakness will make the journey impossible. Question 3. About the safety of the shelter from other people. Can you defend your refuge from intrusion? Do you have a weapon or a way to reliably block the entrance? How noticeable is your location to looters and gangs outside? In the first days after the explosion, violence grows exponentially because law and order disappear instantly. Groups of desperate people form who seek water and food supplies by force. Lone survivors become easy targets for those who have weapons and no moral restraints. If the shelter is not protected and you are without a weapon in an area where many other people are nearby, the risk of attack is very high. This is an argument in favor of leaving for less populated areas where competition for resources is lower simply because of fewer people per square kilometer. Question 4. About the state of the city, critically important. Is the city still burning with fires that are spreading? Are there any signs of working infrastructure in any form? Are other survivors visible on the streets, or is there complete emptiness of dead quarters? If the city is burning and the fire is approaching your shelter, the decision to leave is made immediately, regardless of radiation, because burning alive is instant death, unlike radiation which kills over days and weeks. When choosing between 2 deaths, choose the one that gives at least some chance of survival. If the infrastructure is completely dead, there is no electricity, water, communications, and no signs of restoration are visible, this is a signal that the state as a system has collapsed and help will not come soon. Staying in a dead city without resources means slowly dying in a trap of concrete and asphalt. If mass panic of refugee crowds is visible on the streets or, on the contrary, ominous emptiness without a single person, both options are bad. Crowds mean competition and violence. Emptiness means that everyone who could leave has already left or died. And there is no point in remaining alone in a dead zone. Question 5. About your physical and mental state. Can you walk 50 kilometers on foot with a load of 10 to 15 kilograms in 3 to 4 days? Do you have injuries that prevent normal movement? Are you holding up mentally or close to a breakdown from stress? If you are seriously wounded or ill, leaving the city may be physically impossible. You must decide to stay and try to survive on site for as long as possible, hoping that help will come or your condition will improve over time. But there should be no illusions, the chances are low. If your psyche is on the edge and you cannot make sober decisions from fear, panic, or depression, try to stabilize for at least a day. Sleep if you can, eat what there is. Breathe deeply. Talk to yourself out loud in a calm voice. This helps turn on rational thinking instead of animal panic. So, you have answered the 5 questions honestly. And if at least 3 of them are negative, the decision to leave is made quickly, because staying in such conditions is guaranteed death, only stretched out over time. The best window for leaving the city is the period from 72 hours to 7 days after the explosion. Earlier the radiation is too high, later resources run out and strength weakens. Plus competition for safe routes and destinations grows every day. If you decide to leave, start preparation immediately, without delay. Every hour of hesitation reduces your chances because other survivors are also making the decision and starting to move, and the number of safe paths and places is physically limited. The first thing you do before leaving is pack your backpack correctly, not trying to take everything you see but only the bare essentials for survival on the road and the first days in the new place. The weight of the backpack should not exceed 20% of your body weight, otherwise you will tire quickly. The main thing in the backpack is water. Take the maximum you can carry without killing yourself. 2 to 3 liters minimum, better 4 to 5 if you are physically able. Water weighs a lot, but without it you will die in days on the road. Second in importance is calorie-dense and light food. Canned goods, stew, condensed milk, nuts.
Brie de fruits, chocolate.
Quick cooking cereals. Count calories per weight. Take what gives maximum energy with minimum weight. Do not take fresh products, they are heavy and spoil quickly. Third is basic survival tools. A good universal knife. This is tool number 1. Matches in airtight packaging or a lighter. Strong rope about 10 meters. A flashlight with spare batteries. A minimal first aid kit. Bandages, antiseptic, painkillers. Fourth is proper clothing, warm even in summer because nights are cold. A waterproof jacket or raincoat. Spare socks mandatory. At least 2 pairs. A hat, gloves if you have them. Footwear that is sturdy and broken in, the kind you have walked in before, not new. What not to take under any circumstances, even if it seems important. Documents, money, gold, jewelry. They are useless when the currency is food and water. Electronics, phones, laptops, they do not work without networks and electricity and weigh a lot. Extra clothes except what is necessary. Books, photo albums, sentimental items. They are heavy and do not help survival. Weapons are a separate, difficult question. If you know how to shoot and you have legal weapons with ammunition, take them. But if you have never held a weapon in your hands, do not take it, because without knowing how to use it, you will only attract the attention of those who do know how, and they will take everything from you, including your life. When the backpack is packed correctly, choose the time of departure and the route of movement. And here most people make fatal mistakes, trying to leave by the most obvious paths, which are actually the most dangerous. The best time to leave is at night or early morning when there are fewer people on the streets, visibility is poor, and you are less noticeable. During the day, there is more risk of meeting refugee gangs or looter checkpoints. Night gives the advantage of stealth even at a slow pace. But there is a downside to night movement. You do not see obstacles on the road. You can trip, fall, injure yourself. A flashlight gives you away from afar, so you need balance. Start moving an hour before dawn when it is still dark but will soon become light. Walk until dawn, then hide in shelter and rest. The route of movement is the key to survival. And here an iron rule works that cannot be violated. Go perpendicular to the direction of the wind that was during the explosion. Do not go downwind where the radioactive cloud carried the fallout the farthest and densest. The radioactive trail from the explosion is not a uniform circle. It is an elongated ellipse in the direction of the wind. Where the wind carried the cloud of fallout, the concentration of radiation is tens of times higher than perpendicular to it. Going there means receiving a lethal dose in hours, even 3 days after the explosion. Second route rule. Bypass the city center where destruction is maximum and radiation is high. Go along the outskirts or completely around if possible. Every kilometer closer to the epicenter is additional risk of exposure and encounter with dangers. Third rule. Avoid major roads, highways, where there will be crowds of refugees and traffic jams of abandoned cars. Go on secondary roads, field paths, forest trails. Slower but safer from people who pose a greater threat than radiation after 3 days. Fourth rule. Avoid military objects, airfields, bases, strategic factories. They may be targets of repeated strikes. Nuclear power plants that may fail without staff, hydroelectric dams that may be blown up. Any places where the concentration of danger is above average. Fifth rule. Avoid large concentrations of people, refugees, camps, crowds on the roads. Where there are many people, there is high competition for resources, violence, infections. Better to go on a parallel route even if it is longer. A loner or small group survives better than in a crowd of panicking masses. Choose a steady pace, not fast. 3 to 4 kilometers per hour is normal with a load. It is more important to walk long without stops than fast and burn out in an hour. The goal is not a sprint but a marathon over several days of travel. Realistic distance calculations. In a day, you can walk 20 to 30 kilometers if you walk 8 to 10 hours with breaks. This means 50 kilometers from the epicenter is 2 to 3 days of travel. 100 kilometers is 4 to 5 days. Plan time with a margin for the unforeseen. Orientation without GPS and maps is a critical skill. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Use this for direction. Moss on trees grows thicker on the north side in humid forests. At night, the North Star points north. Find it through the Big Dipper constellation. Rivers flow downward to the seas. Follow along the bank if needed. Paper maps, if you have them, cherish like treasure. Mark the path traveled every day. Plan the route for the next day in the evening. Look for water sources on the map. Rivers, streams, lakes, wells in villages. Avoid marked military objects, cities, major road junctions. A map gives enormous advantage if you know how to read it. A mechanical compass works forever without batteries. The needle always points to magnetic north. Use it to check direction. If there is no compass, make one from a needle floating on water, magnetized with hair or silk. Even a primitive compass is better than guessing where to go. Tracks on the ground. Read them carefully. Fresh tracks of people or animals show who passed recently. Many tracks in one direction mean a stream of refugees. Avoid it. Ash from campfires shows places where others spent the night. Scattered things, trash, corpses, signs of danger or looting. Bypass them. Every 2 to 3 hours of movement, take a short stop of 10 to 15 minutes. Remove the backpack. Rest your back, drink water a little at a time, not in gulps. Eat something calorie-dense. Nuts, chocolate. Inspect your feet. Are there abrasions or blisters? Change socks if they are wet. Foot care is a priority. When you walk on foot for days in a row, blisters appear from friction with shoes. Tape them immediately. Do not wait for them to burst. Smear abrasions with fat or cream if you have it. Wash your feet with cold water in the evening to relieve fatigue. Change socks daily. Wet socks mean fungus and ulcers. Footwear must be broken in, comfortable, the kind you have worn a lot. New footwear will rub guaranteed. Tight shoes squeeze toes and kill feet in a day. Loose shoes slip and create blisters. Ideal footwear is the one you have walked in before a lot and know will not fail you. A spare pair. If you can carry it, change when the first gets wet. Spend the night in shelters, not in the open air. Abandoned houses, sheds, garages, forest thickets where you can hide from eyes. Do not light a fire if you are not sure no one will see the smoke or light. Better a cold night than a meeting with dangerous people attracted by the fire. Choose a place for the night according to safety criteria. Not visible from the road or path. There is at least minimal shelter from wind and rain. There is a spare exit if you have to leave quickly. No signs that other people visit here regularly. Check the surroundings before dark so you know the terrain if you have to run at night. Sleep in survival mode is light and interrupted. Wake up at every rustle, check if it is a threat. Sleep dressed and shod so you can run without preparation. Keep the backpack nearby, do not unpack it for the night. Weapon or knife at hand if you have it. If in a group, sleep in turns, posting a guard. Use water economically but not to fanaticism. Drink when the body demands without waiting for strong thirst. Dehydration is more dangerous than running out of water because without strength you will not reach a replenishment source. Better to drink a little regularly than to save and collapse from weakness. Search for water sources on the way. Rivers, streams, lakes. Drink only boiled or filtered. Rainwater collected in clean containers is safer than standing water. Springs gushing from the ground are cleaner than river water. Morning dew on grass. Collect with cloth and squeeze into a container if desperate. Do not drink from puddles, swamps, ditches. Bacteria and parasites are guaranteed there. The direction of movement is strategic. Your goal is not a specific address but a type of terrain that gives maximum chances for long-term survival. These are small towns and villages at a distance of 50 to 100 kilometers from the epicenter of the strike. Small towns with a population of several thousand are better than villages that are too small where there is no infrastructure at all, and better than big cities where population density is high and competition is fierce. The golden middle is a settlement of 5 to 10,000 residents. Villages and hamlets are good if there are water sources there. a permanent river, lake, spring, well. If the land is fertile for gardens, if there are intact houses for shelter, if there is forest nearby for firewood, hunting, gathering. But very small villages with 2 or 3 households are dangerous due to lack of resources. Forest areas provide shelter and resources. Firewood for heat and cooking, game for hunting if you know how, mushrooms, berries, edible herbs, possibility to hide from people. But you need knowledge of how to survive in the forest, otherwise you will die from hunger or hypothermia faster than in the city. Avoid swampy lowlands where water is stagnant and contaminated, mountainous areas where it is cold and difficult to pass, desert steppes where there is no water or shelter, coastal zones of seas where water may be contaminated by radiation washed from the land. While you are moving along the route, be attentive to signs of danger. Groups of people walking in an organized way are gangs. Avoid them in advance. Loners may be safe or dangerous. Decide according to the situation. Corpses on the road. Bypass them without touching anything. They may be infected with disease or radiation. Do not trust strangers easily, even if they look friendly. In conditions of civilization collapse, morality blurs quickly. People kill for a can of stew or a bottle of water. Trust is built slowly, betrayal happens instantly. Protect yourself first. If you meet people who offer to join a group, assess them soberly. How many are there? How are they armed? How do they communicate with each other? Are there women, children, or only men of fighting age among them? The latter is a dangerous sign. Signs of a dangerous group you must avoid. Only men, all young and healthy, well-armed but with few survival items, means they live by robbery. Aggressive behavior, crude jokes about the weak, attempts to surround you or cut off your escape route, demands to give things immediately without talk. Signs of a relatively safe group. Mixed composition, men, women, children, old people carrying many things for a long journey, means they prepared. They behave cautiously but not aggressively. They offer exchange or joint travel, not demand submission. They keep distance, respecting your space. Negotiations with strangers always from a position of strength. Do not show that you have many resources. Keep a distance of several meters so you can react. Do not turn your back and do not lower your vigilance. Speak calmly but confidently. Prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Resource exchange can be mutually beneficial if you have something extra that is not critically needed and the other has something useful to you. Exchange clearly. At the same time, do not trust on word. Do not show all supplies. Show only what you are ready to exchange. After exchange, part quickly without lingering nearby. Temporary alliances on dangerous sections of the path make sense. Through a zone where there are many gangs, it is safer to go in a group. Joint night guard allows calmer sleep. Help with injury can save a life. But an alliance is not blind trust. Stay on guard always. Parting with temporary companions, do correctly. Do not tell exactly where you are going next. Do not leave tracks that can be followed. If you feel a threat, leave at night without warning. Better to offend with distrust than to die from excessive trust. Betrayal happens when resources run out. Small groups of 3 to 7 people with different skills and mutual support survive better than loners. But forming a group must be done carefully with people who have proven reliability by deeds, not words. Random companions are a risk of betrayal, violence, or simply ballast that drags you down. Children in a group slow movement but give motivation to live on. For children, adults work harder. Children raise morale, reminding that there is a future. But children require more water, food, protection, warmth. The decision to take children or not depends on resources and distance to the goal. Wounded and sick on the way are a heavy choice. Helping is humane but slows the group and risks everyone. Leaving is cruel but increases the chances of the rest. An intermediate option is to give minimal help, food, water, medicine, and leave them in place with a chance. Everyone decides according to conscience, but conscience in survival conditions is a luxury not everyone can afford. When you have reached a safe zone far from the epicenter, the first task is to find a place for long-term settlement. And here 5 criteria work that determine whether you will survive for months and years or die in weeks. Criterion 1, the most important, without options. A source of clean water, year-round. A non-drying river, a constantly flowing spring, a deep well, a non-swampy lake. Without water, a person dies in 3 days maximum, and no other resources compensate for its absence. The water must be relatively clean or at least purifiable by boiling from infections. Stagnant bodies of water, swamps, puddles are dangerous with parasites and bacteria. Flowing water from a spring or river is better, but even it must be boiled before drinking for the first time until you get used to the local microflora. Criterion 2 is the possibility of obtaining food stably. Land for a garden where you can grow potatoes, vegetables, grains, forest where mushrooms, berries, nuts grow and game is present for hunting, a river or lake for fishing. All this together gives variety of nutrition and insurance against crop failure. A garden is the basis of long-term survival, but the first harvest will be only after several months after planting. For this you need supplies or the ability to obtain wild food by hunting, gathering, fishing. Without survival skills in nature, you will die of hunger even next to a forest full of resources. Criterion 3 is shelter from weather and from people at the same time. An abandoned intact house or reparable shed that can be insulated. A place in the forest where you can build a dugout or hut. The main thing is that it is hidden from the eyes of random passers-by and protects from rain, wind, cold. Winter without a roof over your head and without heating kills from hypothermia in one night even in a temperate climate. Summer without shelter from the sun causes heat stroke and dehydration. Rain without protection leads to colds, pneumonia, infections. Weather is a threat no less than people or hunger. Criterion 4 is a safe distance from zones of high radiation contamination. At least 50 kilometers from the epicenter of the explosion is better 100 and further, not in the direction of the radioactive cloud trail, not near military objects that are targets of repeated strikes, not near nuclear power plants that risk failing. Radiation is uneven, and without a dosimeter you will not know exactly whether the place is safe. You need a working dosimeter to check the background level regularly. But if there is no dosimeter, orient by indirect signs. Is there no mass death of animals and birds? Do plants grow normally? Are there signs of radiation sickness in nearby people? Criterion 5 is low population density before and after the war. The fewer people per square kilometer, the less competition for limited resources. The lower the risk of violent conflicts, the easier it is to hide and live unnoticed without attracting attention to yourself and your supplies. The ideal place in theory is an abandoned or sparsely populated village where only a few dozen people remain at most. Nearby a river and forest, fertile land, non-extreme climate, far from cities and military objects. This is survival classic, but reality is harsher. Reality is that the best places will be taken by other survivors. Very quickly, in the first week, competition for them will be fierce, sometimes bloody. Those who arrived first will seize them and defend them by force. Latecomers will get the worst options or nothing at all. Therefore, the speed of the decision to leave is critical. Whoever left on the third or fourth day has an advantage over those who left on the 7th or 10th. A difference of a few days is the difference between a good place and dangerous no man's land without resources. When you have found a suitable place, settle in quickly but carefully. Do not show that you have supplies. Do not make noise and do not attract attention. Establish contact with locals if there are any. Slowly, through exchange of help, not force, do not conflict without extreme necessity even if you disagree. The first weeks in the new place are a test of all survival systems. Does the water source work stably? Can you obtain food regularly? Does the shelter hold heat and dryness? Is it safe from people and animals? If even one system breaks, look for backup options or prepare to move on. Shelter arrangement begins with basic things that seem obvious but many forget in stress. The roof must not leak. Check at the first rain. Walls must hold wind, seal cracks. The floor must be dry. Raise the sleeping platform above the ground. The door must close with a bolt from inside for protection. Organization of space inside the shelter is critical for long-term living. Separate the sleeping area from the cooking area. Store supplies in a dry, cool place where rodents cannot reach. Keep tools in order so you can find what you need quickly. Create a system, not chaos, otherwise you will lose time and nerves. Water is priority number 1 every day. Check the source in the morning. Collect a supply for the day ahead at minimum. Boil all water before drinking for the first months until you get used to it. Store in clean, closed containers so bacteria do not appear. Economize, but not to fanaticism. Thirst is more dangerous than overspending. Obtaining food becomes daily work, not a one-time task. If there is a garden, tend it regularly. Weeds grow faster than vegetables. If you hunt, learn to read tracks and set traps. Spending cartridges on every shot is wasteful. If you fish, check nets twice a day, morning and evening. If you gather wild plants, learn which are edible and which are poisonous. A mistake may be the last. Canning and storing the harvest is a science you must master. Drying mushrooms, berries, herbs for winter, pickling vegetables and fish, smoking meat. All this extends the shelf life of food from weeks to months. In winter, when there is no fresh food, supplies decide whether you survive or die of hunger. Fire is the center of life in the New World. Cooking food, boiling water, heating, drying clothes, repelling animals. But fire requires constant attention. Stock of firewood for winter must be prepared in summer. Otherwise, in the cold, you will freeze trying to saw frozen wood with bare hands. Starting a fire without matches is a skill that can save a life. Friction, bow and drill, flint and steel, lens and glass focusing the sun. All this works but requires practice. Do not wait until matches run out. Train in advance. Forming a small community is the only long-term strategy. Loners die quickly from disease or injury or simply from the impossibility of doing everything themselves around the clock. A group of 3 to 7 people with different skills and distributed roles multiplies everyone's chances many times over. Choosing people for the community is critically important. Look for those who have proven reliability by deeds, not words, who have useful skills you do not have, who are mentally stable and do not break under pressure, who are ready to work for the common good and not constantly pull the blanket to themselves. Distribution of roles in the group must be clear. Someone is responsible for water procurement, someone for hunting and fishing, someone for the garden and supplies, someone for security and guard, someone for treating injuries and illnesses. Overlapping duties is normal, but main responsibility must lie on a specific person. Community rules must be established immediately and followed strictly. How is food shared, equally or by labor? Who makes decisions, one person or by vote? How are conflicts resolved, by discussion or is there an arbiter? What to do with those who violate rules, warnings or expulsion? Without rules, the group will quickly fall apart into warring parts. Conflicts inside the group are inevitable but manageable. People under stress break, argue, accuse. It is important not to let conflict turn into a split. Speak problems out loud immediately. Do not accumulate grievances. Look for compromises where both sides get something. Isolate toxic people who constantly sow discord without reason. Mutual help multiplies chances but not to the point of self-sacrifice. Help others when you can but not to your own detriment. Critically, if someone is ill, care for them but do not get infected yourself. If someone is wounded, treat them but do not spend the last resources on a hopeless case. Cold calculation is cruel, but it keeps the group as a whole alive. Children and old people in the group are a balance of load and value. Children do not work now, but they are the future if they survive. Old people are physically weak, but their experience and knowledge are priceless. The decision to take them or not depends on resources. If food is enough, take them. If on the edge of survival, you will have to choose harshly. Women in a survival group are not the weak link. Physical strength is less, but endurance and attention to detail are higher. Many survivalists underestimate female skills and pay for it. A balanced group with men and women is more stable than a purely male one that slides into aggression and risk. Trust is built slowly through shared trials. Together survived a hungry week. Together repelled a looter attack. Together pulled out the wounded. Only after that can you be sure the person will not betray at a critical moment. Words are cheap, deeds are expensive. Skills are more important than things in the long term. The ability to start a fire, obtain water, hunt, fish, grow vegetables, build shelters, treat wounds, sew, repair tools. All this is capital that cannot be taken away, and that works always. Things break, run out, get lost, but skills remain. Basic skills you need to know or learn urgently. Starting a fire without matches, purifying water by boiling and filtering, setting snares and traps for game, identifying edible plants from poisonous ones, processing animal skins and meat, sewing clothes from improvised materials. This is the minimum without which you will not last long. Basic medical skills can save a life. Stopping bleeding with a tourniquet and pressure bandage. Treating wounds with clean water and antiseptic if available. applying a splint to a broken limb from sticks and cloth, recognizing signs of infection when a wound reddens, festers, and temperature rises. Basic diagnosis by symptoms: what exactly hurts and how serious. Minimal first aid kit you must have and replenish. Sterile and non-sterile bandages. Lots. Antiseptic, iodine, brilliant green, hydrogen peroxide, painkillers, analgin, and ibuprofen. Whatever you find. Broad-spectrum antibiotics if you can get them. Activated charcoal for poisoning. Tourniquet or material for it. Scissors and tweezers for extracting fragments. Hygiene in conditions of civilization collapse is not about comfort but about survival. Wash hands before eating, at least in cold water without soap. Do not eat from the ground and dirty surfaces. Do not drink water from stagnant bodies without boiling. Keep wounds covered and change dressings regularly. Brush teeth at least with a twig if there is no toothbrush. Decaying teeth lead to abscesses and death. Infectious diseases spread quickly in crowding. Dysentery, cholera, typhoid are transmitted through dirty water and unwashed hands. Tuberculosis through air when coughing. Scabies and lice through contact and clothing. Isolate the sick from the healthy if you can. Quarantine saves the rest. Parasites become a real threat. Worms from undercooked meat and fish. Ticks carrying encephalitis and borreliosis. Mosquitoes malaria if the climate is suitable. Fleas and lice carry typhus. Check your body regularly, remove parasites immediately. Do not wait for complications. Injury is harder to treat without doctors. A fracture requires fixation and rest for weeks. A dislocation must be set quickly before it swells. A deep cut, so if you know how, or pull edges together and glue. Burns? Cool with water and keep clean. Infection from a burn kills. Concussion is treated only with rest and time. Chronic diseases without medicine become a sentence. Diabetics without insulin die in weeks. Asthmatics without inhalers suffocate during an attack. Hypertensives without pills risk stroke. If you have chronic problems, stock medicine to the maximum or accept that you have less time than the healthy. Food becomes the only real currency. Canned goods are more expensive than gold. Grains more valuable than money. Seeds are an investment in the future. Knowledge of where to find wild food or grow your own is the difference between life and death. Barter completely replaces money. Distribution of food in the group is the source of the main conflicts. Some work more, some less, but everyone wants to eat the same. A fair system, or at least one perceived as fair, is needed. Otherwise, the group will fall apart from envy and grievances faster than from external threats. Food supplies must be hidden and distributed wisely. Do not show that you have any if there are hungry people around. Make caches in several places in case of robbery or fire. Spend supplies slowly, stretching them to the maximum time. Always keep a reserve for the black day that will definitely come. Hunting requires skills and patience. Traps and snares work while you sleep, saving strength. Firearms are noisy and attract attention. Plus, cartridges run out quickly. A bow or crossbow is quiet, but they require years of practice. Spear and club for large game. When surrounded by a group, fishing is easier than hunting, but not everywhere there are bodies of water. Wild edible plants are free food if you know what to take. Nettle, dandelion, burdock, plantain, arach, sorrel. All this grows everywhere. Berries, mushrooms, nuts, acorns. Chestnuts in season give calories in bulk. Dig plant roots in autumn when they have accumulated starch. But the main thing is not to confuse edible with poisonous. Learn in advance or die from poisoning. Growing vegetables is the basis of long-term survival. Potatoes give maximum calories per area. Carrots, beets, cabbage store through winter. Legumes give vegetable protein. Grains, wheat, rye require large area but give bread. All this is planted in spring and harvested in autumn if lucky with weather and pests. Seeds are a treasure that must be protected. Hybrid store seeds give one harvest then do not reproduce. Varietal seeds multiply from year to year, saving seeds from each harvest for the next season, exchanging for other resources when there are surpluses. They are expensive. Canning and storing the harvest extends life. Drying vegetables, fruits, mushrooms, pickling cabbage, cucumbers, smoking meat, fish, fermenting apples, beets. All this is done without electricity. Buy old technologies forgotten in cities but remembered in villages. Learn from old people while they are alive. Diseases kill en masse without medicine. A simple infection from a cut becomes lethal. Diarrhea from dirty water dehydrates in days. Pneumonia kills without antibiotics. Toothache turns into sepsis. Prevention? Hygiene. Cleanliness is not luxury but critical necessity. Psychological state collapses slowly but inevitably. Depression from losses, fear of the future, survivor's guilt, loneliness, loss of meaning. These are enemies no less dangerous than hunger or cold. You need rituals, goals, plans to keep your mind in a world where everything has lost its former meaning. Symptoms of psychological breakdown you must track. Apathy when you do not want to get up and work. Aggression without reason out of nowhere. Paranoia when you see threat everywhere even where there is none. Obsessive thoughts about the past that cannot be returned. Suicidal ideas when it seems easier to die. All these are signs that the psyche is at the limit. Maintaining routine and structure helps not to go crazy. Get up at the same time every day. Perform tasks from a list, even simple ones. Keep a calendar, mark days so as not to lose count of time. Maintain hygiene. Wash, shave, cut hair. This returns humanity. Talk to people if there are any, or to yourself out loud if alone. Short-term and long-term goals give meaning to existence. Today, prepare firewood for a week. This week, repair the roof before rains. This month, pickle cabbage for winter. This year, grow a good harvest. In 5 years, build a solid house. Goals structure time and give a reason to live on. Loss of loved ones is inevitability in a catastrophe of this scale. Allow yourself to grieve, but do not get stuck in grief forever. Remember the good, but do not live in the past. Keep moving forward because life demands action here and now. The dead would want you to survive, not die of longing for them. Survivor's guilt is a normal reaction but destructive. You survived not because you betrayed someone, but because you knew what to do. Or you were simply lucky. Do not destroy yourself with guilt. This is an insult to the memory of those who died. Live for yourself and for them. Make the world a little better in their memory. Loneliness kills slowly. A person is a social being. Without contacts, he goes crazy. If you are alone, look for other survivors carefully. Form connections, even temporary. Domestic animals, dog, cat, goats, give emotional support and practical benefit. Even just talking to an animal helps preserve speech and mind. Hope is not naivety but a survival strategy. Believe that it will be better even if there are no grounds. Plan the future even if it is uncertain. Imagine how life will improve in a year, 5, 10 years. Hope gives energy to continue when logic says give up. Adaptation to the new reality is acceptance that the past is gone. Stop waiting for power to be restored quickly. Accept that the conveniences of civilization have left for a long time. Reconcile with hard labor as the norm of life. Stop comparing now with what was before the war. The new world demands new rules and new thinking. Weather turns from inconvenience into a deadly threat when there is no infrastructure. Winter without heating kills from hypothermia in one night. Summer without clean water causes heat stroke and dehydration in a day. Rain without a roof leads to pneumonia. Wind without protected shelter blows away the last strength. Nature is indifferent to your suffering. Preparation for winter begins in summer, otherwise you will freeze. Stock of firewood, minimum 5 cubic meters per person per season. Insulating the shelter with moss, grass, earth, whatever you find. Layered warm clothing, better than one thick one. Food supply for 3 to 4 months when the garden does not grow. All this is done in advance, not at the last moment. Primitive but effective heating. A stove from stones and clay if you know how to build. A campfire in the center of the dugout with a chimney outside. Even just a pile of smoldering coals gives heat at night. The main thing is that smoke goes out, otherwise you will suffocate in your sleep. Save firewood. Burn only for cooking and the coldest hours. Summer gives harvest and supplies but carries its dangers. Heat above 30 degrees requires shelter in shade and lots of water. Sunstroke kills in hours of work in open sun. Dehydration creeps up unnoticed. Drink regularly without waiting for thirst. Insects, mosquitoes, flies, ticks carry diseases. Protect yourself with smoke and clothing. Spring and autumn are seasons of intensive work. In spring you plow, so prepare the garden for growth. In autumn you harvest, prepare for winter, can dry salt. Miss these seasons and winter will kill by hunger. Nature does not give a second chance. Rain is a source of water but also danger at the same time. Collecting rainwater from roofs into clean containers is easier than carrying from the river. But in the first months after nuclear strikes, rain may wash radioactive dust. Boil it without fail. Wet clothes without change lead to hypothermia. Even in summer, dry by the fire immediately. Wind is a constant enemy. It rips off roofs, ignites fires, blows heat out of shelters. Build on the leeward side of a hill or in forest where trees dampen gusts. Strengthen structures with stones and ropes. Do not hope it will stand by itself. Wind tests every weakness and uses it. Flooding in lowlands and near rivers in spring when snow melts. If you live near water, build on an elevation of at least 3 meters above river level. Store supplies high on the floor. Have an evacuation plan if water rises suddenly. Drowning in your own house is a stupid death but common. Drought kills slowly through thirst and crop failure. If summer without rain for months, wells become shallow, rivers dry up, gardens burn. You need backup water sources, deep ones or springs independent of precipitation. Without water you will die in days, no food supplies will help. The state as a system will not recover quickly after nuclear war. There is no army controlling territory because mobilization is impossible when communications are destroyed. There is no police maintaining order when the police themselves are busy surviving their families. There is no government organizing help when officials are dead or in bunkers cut off from reality. Recovery will take years, in the best case months, in an optimistic scenario that is unlikely. Power grids are destroyed, months needed for repair. Water supply requires pumps that require electricity. Transport is stuck in traffic jams or without fuel. The banking system is dead without electronics. All complex infrastructure of the modern world has collapsed like a house of cards. Local power forms spontaneously from below, not from above. Village elders take control. Military formations create their zones of control. Bandit groups seize resources by force. Religious communities unite believers. Someone must organize the chaos. Otherwise, everyone will die. Power flows to those who can protect and feed. Trade returns to direct barter. Food for tools. Seeds for medicine, work for shelter. Money is useless when there is nothing to buy and nowhere to exchange. Gold is heavy and inedible. Real currency is what can be used immediately for survival. Skills are worth more than things in the long term. Communication between survivors is restored primitively. Foot messengers between settlements, signal fires on hills to warn of danger, notes left in agreed places, battery radios if working ones remain. Communication slows to the speed of a walking pace and loses a lot of information. Education of children becomes the responsibility of surviving adults. Basic survival skills are more important than mathematics and literature now, but literacy and counting are needed for the future. Old books, if preserved, are a treasure of knowledge. Teach children everything you know yourself. They will restore the world when they grow up. Medicine rolls back 100 years. Surgery without anesthesia. Only vodka and a stick between the teeth. Antibiotics are replaced by herbs and hope that immunity will cope. Dentistry is removal of bad teeth with pliers without pain relief. Childbirth is taken by midwives, not doctors. Infant mortality soars, the weak die, the strong survive. Natural selection returns. Knowledge of when to leave the city is not abstract theory but a concrete algorithm. Assessment of the 5 criteria after 72 hours from the explosion. Decision-making on facts, not emotions. Correct backpack preparation. Choice of route by wind and safety rules. Movement in the optimal time window. Most will die not from radiation, which subsides with time. They will die from incorrect timing, left too early under fallout or too late when strength ran out and routes were occupied. From incorrect choice of direction, following the cloud instead of perpendicular to it. From trying to drive a car instead of walking. The survivors are those who knew exactly when to make the decision to leave, who understood the physics of radiation decay and the 72-hour rule, who could pack a backpack without extra weight, who chose a route by logic and not by familiar roads, who found a place with water, food, and shelter faster than competitors. A city after a nuclear strike is a trap with delayed action. The first day's radiation keeps you inside. Then resources run out and violence begins. Then weakness makes leaving impossible. The evacuation window is narrow, and missing it means remaining forever in a grave of concrete and asphalt. The time when you need to leave is not when it gets really bad, but when the assessment of the 5 criteria shows that staying is more dangerous than going. This is preventive logic, not reactive. You act before it is too late, not after it is already impossible. How to leave correctly is a system of rules without exceptions. On foot, not by car, perpendicular to the wind, not along the cloud trail, secondary paths, not highways, at night, not during the day when possible, with a correctly packed, non-overloaded backpack. To a goal with water, not just farther from the explosion, quickly, not postponing for later. Knowledge is the only tool that always works. It weighs nothing, it cannot be taken away. It turns chaos into a plan of action, fear into an algorithm, panic into sober calculation. And it is exactly knowledge of when and how to leave the city that decides who will survive and who will become yet another statistic of the catastrophe measured in millions of victims.